welcome to this first session, which is based and targeting the Welsh curriculum. It's our first of hopefully a series of them, which we'll talk a bit more about to you later on. My name's Kim Hudson. I work for the Council for Learning Outside the Classroom as the Accreditations and CPD Manager, but I live in Ceredigion. I have the view of the sea in Newquay, and my business is Inspiring Outdoors. So I do very much, encouraging teachers to take learning outside the classroom as much as possible. We have various people with us today for this session. And I was just saying at the very start, I did start by saying Pryn Houndar, and I have to apologise straight away that unfortunately I'm only at Mynediad level of learning Welsh, so we are not able to deliver this in Welsh today. So it's been delivered in English, and I apologise for that. But certainly, if the demand is there, we are looking at ways. Well, certainly we're going to be looking at ways of translating materials into Welsh. But also, putting on Welsh language sessions as well, if we have the demand from you. We're joined today by Dawn, who is our main speaker, and then Aaron Davies from, Dawn is from Nature Days. She will introduce herself a bit more in a moment. Aaron Davies from Abbey Primary School in Neath. Arwel Elias, who is the, I'll get this right, but you can speak up, Arwel, if I get it wrong. But he's one of the OEAP Cymru representatives, and we have Claire Adams as well, who is an OEAP as well, and they'll talk a lot more about themselves in a moment. I'm going to apologise to start with. I've got a terrible cough. I'm hoping it's not COVID, but I've done a lot of COVID tests this week, so I'm presuming not. But I will have to mute myself now and then. You're all on mute anyway as you entered. We'll be taking questions at the end of each person's presentation. But if you'd like to put a question in chat, please do. And there'll be times when Dawn will be asking you to share your experiences in chat as well. And I will be filtering that and picking out what I can. As I said, there's 300 people booked onto this. So we'll have to bear with us if lots of people start answering things on chat. If you do want to put something in Welsh, I'm sure we've got people here who can translate that for me, and then we can get your answer. But unfortunately, that will be in English. Right, shall we start? Emily, Emily is recording this at the moment, so if you don't want to be on your camera, then please just turn that off. If everyone's happy, then we'll carry on. Is that everything? Have I covered everything, Emily? This tells me if I've forgotten to say anything.
Yeah, that's good. Thanks, Kim.
Thanks, Emily. Right, so if we start, Dawn, are you there?
Yes, I am here.
Dawn's been teaching all day, so well, there's Aaron. So over to you, Dawn.
Okay, thank you. Hopefully you can see my slides then. I'll just put it on like that. So thank you for inviting me, Learning Outside the Classroom Council. And my name is Dawn Thomas. I run a company called Nature Days, which provides outdoor learning experiences for schools, but also inset and training for staff to help use the outdoors more effectively and more mindfully. And at the moment, I'm living in Wales. I've been working in Wales for the last 20 years, but I've been working an awful lot over lockdown on the new curriculum and trying to get my head around how to integrate learning outside and learning outdoors and trying to make it more meaningful in the new curriculum and just trying to get to grips with all of those what matter statements and everything associated with it. So my presentation today is going to be trying to break it down and just lay it on the line how the learning outside the classroom and the outdoor learning and using your outdoors is going to be integrated into the new curriculum and how it makes it meaningful and how we can absorb those 4 purposes and making sure that we're covering those within that learning outside the classroom. So first of all, we're going to think about your vision. And of course, this is probably something that you've been talking about as staff in your school for quite a while, because that's the first thing you had to do for the new curriculum was to come up with your written vision for your school. And that should be all embedded and should all be decided. However, I just want to think whether you have considered the outside curriculum and whether you've got a vision for that. Now, it could be that you're already on this journey of using learning outside the classroom, and your vision for your school integrates some aspects of learning outside already. If not, if you're trying to embrace the whole of the new curriculum, you really need to consider where these students, your learners, are actually coming from, and use that as part of your new curriculum. As the new curriculum is all about each individual school creating their own individual curriculum, if you're not considering where your students are coming from and their locale, then you're not actually really going to be covering exactly what a new curriculum that is relevant to them actually means. So we're going to just start with going through some ideas of how you might add some, it might be just changing some wording or adding just another statement to your vision to ensure that you are thinking about at the outside. But also you may want to go to just the first step. Kim will talk about at the end that it's really important to think about small steps to get to that integrating outdoor learning. Don't think about, right, we're going to go straight outdoors with everything. So it might be just to take a few words and add them to your vision. So this is just to help you think about what the outside really looks like in vision, in practice, in your vision. So you need to consider all aspects of outside within your school. So obviously you've got the building itself. Now this might be, you know, a 1940s old thing that should have been demolished years ago, but it's still your school building. So it's still relevant to your learners and it should be integrated into what you're teaching them. Obviously you've got your school grounds, and this might be amazing school grounds with a variety of habitats and loads of space, or it could be just a concrete square, but it's still your learners' school grounds. So you should be able to use that to just identify to them what they can learn there. Then looking wider, you've got your local area, and this should really be the learner's local learning space. So we're talking about if they're walking to school, if you've got a small area that your students are walking in from, then where they live, their actual home life as well. So you're thinking about the culture of that area, the built environment, or thinking about where their parents might work and how that relates to their outdoor learning as well. Then considering wider, again, maybe especially in Welsh schools, a lot of children get bussed in from quite a long way away. So therefore you've got quite a wide area where your students have got their residence. So you've got a wide area there you should be considering as well. So if you want to reflect that in your learning opportunities, consider adding, this is just some ideas you might want to put into your vision. So you could just relating it to the new curriculum. Obviously you're thinking about the four purposes because it's a four purpose driven curriculum. So is there any way you can integrate your outdoors into facilitating that four purpose curriculum? That's just, you know, bog standard, adding those words outdoors into your vision. Obviously you've got the OEAs as well, creating those authentic experiences, but using that outdoor space as well to do that. Within the four purposes, you've got this natural curiosity and the fact that you're trying to make these lifelong learners who are really not just, you know, understanding that the classroom is the place to learn, that they can learn in all aspects of their life. If they're lifelong learners, then they're never going to be back in a classroom once they've left school, unless they become teachers. So obviously they need to learn that they can learn outside as well. And that's outside of a building. It could be outside of their school in another building, but it's all about outside of those four walls. And that provides them with that curiosity to explore, not just inside the books or inside the classroom, but further afield, the opportunities to learn there. Also, this wide range of high quality experiences. In your AOLE, you've got that E, that experience, and that's really important, I think. Experiences really happen outside of the classroom. Whatever you do in a classroom, really the experience is going to be very secluded and quite static because you have those four walls. You can go outside and you've got the weather, you've got seasons, you've got so much changing and such a variety that you really can have that experience without putting in an awful lot of effort. Then you can consider, again, this outdoor area being a mode for inspiration, and that covers all areas of learning and experience. And that's really important because of the cross-curricular aspect of the new curriculum. If you're still trying to go outside and teach them just maths or just science, then you're not embracing the whole idea behind the curriculum, which is this cross-curricular. Once they get into the real world, nothing is actually still in subjects. Everything is cross-curricular. Unless you're very academic, you will never work on just one subject. you would probably be in your life exposed to all subjects. So cross-curricular makes it much more meaningful in their education. Also trying to make sure that you are monitoring and establishing this integrated outdoors. So you're not just using it for one session and then, right, we've been outside, let's go back in and, you know, sit back down and do what we were doing before. Making a whole school embrace the embed into your planning, into your monitoring, into your evaluating. And this doesn't have to be something huge. Again, as Kim will go through, it's tweaking what you've got already, just making sure that what you could do outside is embedded in what you do inside, so that it all comes together in one big vision. And then you can start to be ambitious if you think you're on the road there already, thinking about how much time you're spending outdoors. And I'd love a school to embrace this and say in their vision they'd like to have their students outside just as much as they are inside. You know, you might be just starting on that ladder, but again, that's a way of you trying to really, you know, focus on the goal. So how do we do it? What does it actually mean in practice? Best way to think about it is to look at your whole school from above. So literally Google Earth, as this is. So thinking about your school grounds, your built environment, and just trying to identify. You may be zoning things in terms of your areas of learning and experience. However, don't forget, it's got to be cross-curricular. So don't try and say, right, no, sorry, you can only have expressive arts over there. But thinking about what are the opportunities in your school grounds, what provides you with those possibilities to undertake the 4 purposes, where you've got areas you can be quite inventive and creative. Is there anywhere you can be in enterprising contributors? And this only makes sense to your school grounds. You cannot take this from anybody else. This is only relevant to your learners, to your school. So this is a school that I work in, and this shows what they've got. They've got fantastic grounds. So they've got lots of opportunities for things. If we then break that down into the local area where most of the children are living, you can see it's a very rural school. If I started teaching them all about a location and not mentioned within their education through the time they're in the school about things like the farming, caravans, commons, and all the other things going on in their local area, then I wouldn't be creating a curriculum that is relevant to them. Many school children might go through the whole of their primary school, but have not considered something like the position of the jobs in the local area and what will potentially be where they are working. So if we want them to be lifelong learners, they need to consider what's going on around them as part of their learning as well. So visiting your local farms, getting your caravan owners in, which is probably going to be your parents as well, but trying to get them to really explore what's in their local area. And all of this could be walked to as well, so you don't have to worry about busing or anything. Then if you go wider again, you can start looking on a larger scale. Of course, you start to think about going on trips and going wider for the learning outside the classroom. Got to get buses involved. But if you start to bring that locale alive for them, it doesn't have to be, again, the most amazing location, but it's their location. It's where they live. It's where they go on a weekend, where they go with their friends to play. So it's relevant to them. So bringing that into the curriculum is really important. Now, you might just say, well, that's easy. That's an amazing place to live. That's got so many opportunities. However, it doesn't have to be like that. This is a school, again, that I work with, and it is in the middle of 2 terrace houses. It's just completely concrete. But again, it's being creative. And if you think about the 4 purposes, we are trying to create these creative contributors. But you also, as a teacher, are becoming a creative contributor because you have to be creative about this new curriculum. So you need to consider this space and think, right, how can we use it to the best of its ability? Just to give you an example, I've spent all day today actually just up the road from this school in the next set of terrace houses on the next street, which is another school, which has got exactly the same school grounds as this, really. And they wanted to go on a field trip, but because of COVID, they weren't allowed out. They had to stay in their school grounds. They're studying a book called The Explorers. I don't know if anyone's seen that one. And they wanted to go and do a whole thing on survival, exploring, on rainforests. And I said, yeah, fine. And I knew what their school grounds was like. So we spent the whole day visiting the rainforest, and we didn't leave that yard because we weren't allowed to. But at the end of the day, they really felt that they had actually been there because it was all imaginative. they had an amazing experience of using skills, and it was all the 4 core purposes because they were being so imaginative and so creative, and so were we in actually developing the day. But just because there wasn't any trees there, that doesn't mean that we can't visit the rainforest just because it's got a concrete base. And again, considering the wider area, sometimes these built up areas have actually got even better opportunities within walking distance, and you can link up really well to things. So you've got churches, you've got local parks, again, lots of opportunities for learning outside the classroom, which have been, they would get exposed to all the time. But if you can visit those, then you can see an awful lot within a short distance within those rural areas and those urban areas. So this is what I've been doing today. I thought I'd put these in. So this is us on the bottom left. That's them going on their imaginative journey through the tree canopy down into the rainforest. And then of course we had to survive. So they've all been creating shelters. And to be honest, the creative contribution that they had to make to put up shelters on concrete was just amazing. And the skills they did. And at the end of it, we said, well, now if you go to a forest, putting up a shelter is going to be easy. So you've made it really challenging. And this is what the ground was like. Lovely paintings, but there was no trees, nothing. And behind me is even worse. This is like the interesting corner of the playground. So it doesn't have to be amazing for you to actually create some opportunities within your school grounds. So looking at the way forward in terms of the 4 core purposes. Now, I'm sure you're very aware of the 4 core purposes now, because they are, what is driving the actual new curriculum. But sometimes you can get lost within those 4 small sentences. And if you do search on them, you'll find that there's about 10 bullet points actually underlying all of those. And within those bullet points, I've just pulled out some of the ones that are really relevant to learning outdoors. So you really can teach everything to do with the 4 purposes outside, because they really do build on these 4 purposes, anything to do with the outside. But if we just have a quick look at those, thinking about things like the enterprising, creative contributors, being outside, even just being outside in poor weather, you have to deal with problems. It's difficult sometimes just to deal with how we're going to get around being too cold, too wet, finding shelter, getting the sun in my eyes. All these real life problems are going to be exposed to them when they're not in the classroom. Also, it's a really good opportunity for them to reframe problems that they've had in classroom. I've been working with a school yesterday who's doing a research project on the impact of outdoor learning on their maths. And we've been doing lessons outside with one group, giving them, we've been doing, yesterday we were looking at scaling, and that another group has been doing the same lesson inside without access to the outdoors, to just see which one enjoyed it first more, but also which one actually understood it better. And if you try and provide them with that movement, but also that opportunity to see what you're talking about, some of them found it so much more meaningful. You also had ones, which was really interesting, that are great with sums, will rattle off a load of sums, take them outside, and they suddenly didn't get it. They wanted the sum. They couldn't see the maths in the problem. They're never, when they leave school, going to be given a load of sums. So actually their math skills, although very, very high, are absolutely useless unless they become an accountant. So they needed that opportunity to see the maths in the outside world, to provide them with these problem-solving ideas. So just an example of a problem-solving idea that you could give that is meaningful is maths is testing something they would do in the classroom, would just be like, right, you've been doing perimeter inside, we've been measuring shapes, we've been measuring around our pencils, we've been measuring around our pencil cases, right, we're going to go outside, we have a problem, we want to re-tarmac the yard. Okay, we need to know the area of it, we need to know the perimeter of it, we're going to put up a fence. Any real life problem like that, they suddenly start thinking, oh, so that's where the maths is going, that's why I was taught that. And that, hopefully, anyone who's a reluctant mathematician might suddenly think, oh, actually, this is useful. You know, the number of people who say, well, how many times have I labeled a meander, or how many times have I done Pythagoras since I left school? But we should be teaching them that the maths is there out in real life. And this is what would actually make it much more enterprising, and they're creative contributors because they can see that relevance. We've also got that measured risk in there. And that goes along with the healthy, confident individuals. A lot of that healthy, confident individual purpose is all about their emotional and their mental well-being. And of course, as everyone knows, if you go outside, it's going to be great for their health and well-being. Right, so I'm going to skip through this because I'm aware that I'm going too slow. Right, so next thing, we're going to look at the pedagogical approaches. Now, of course, there's the 12 classic ones that it's based on. But again, I've taken three out of the 12, which really do lead to, a brilliant opportunity for outdoor learning. So we've got this blend of approaches, obviously a blend of approaches going outside. You've got so many opportunities for blending how you're teaching. You've got these authentic contexts, and that is what the outside is all about. It's authentic learning because it's an authentic place. And then the last one is all about the range across the areas. So if you're going to be using that cross-curricular opportunity, outdoors provides that. It's very easy to bring in the science and the maths and the geography and the health and well-being in one package. If we look at the early years pedagogy, the extra ones, there's 3 there that also really push it. We all know that the foundation phase is all about learning in the indoor and the outdoor environment, but it's specifically in the pedagogies there that you've got to plan the environment so it supports their schemas and their experimental learning. We've also got that first-hand practical authentic experiences and the high quality environment. So it's specific in the early years pedagogies as well. The areas of learning and experience, there's our 6 there. The important thing about those is that you can teach every single one of those outside. Again, you need to be slightly creative, but you need to understand where they are in the outdoors. So you need to be able to see. So it's almost like you go outside with your humanities eyes on, or with your literacy and language and communication eyes on, and you try and look for the literacy inside the outdoor space. So that means that you're being very creative, but then it's going to be more authentic. So what I'm going to go through now is just some ideas of how you can integrate outdoor learning and using the outside space and learning outside the classroom into those areas. This is one way in which schools, and a lot of schools have done this. Actually, that's what I was going to ask you to do. If you can put into the chat, if there is any way in which you launch your projects. So if you launch your topic, if you could write in the chat which way you do it. So I know some people do their marketplaces, some people go on trips, some people just have launch days or experiential days. So if you could put in the chat what you do, just to get an idea, because the whole point of these launch days are to provide the children with inspiration for doing their planning. So it's providing them with not an awful lot of knowledge, but also it's like a teaser. It's like a little trailer. So they think, oh, I like the thought of that, but I've now got masses of questions. So the end of your launch day shouldn't be, oh, I've learned so much. It should be, I've got so many questions. So with one of the examples, I get asked by schools to design their launch days. And then within that, we use their links through their teachers and also through their parents and through any connections they've got to try and make it as relevant as possible to their learners. So with all that, we create these launch days, and I come in and I do some of the aspects of it, and I write the activities for the other teachers. And together we have this amazing, really intense launch day, but it's all done usually in their school grounds or in their school building itself. But it builds on those connections you've got already. So can I ask if I got any in the chat? So
yeah, you've got there lots there, Dawn.
Oh, fantastic.
Yeah, lots of theme days, some trips or virtual trips at the moment, obviously. Develop and inspire planning days, immersive experiences, presenting a problem, books and hooks, and things like letters or box of surprise objects. Lots of people say a mantle of the expert approach.
Excellent. So again, this is the thing about this learning outside the classroom. It shouldn't be an add-on. It should be tweaking what you've got. So just thinking about your launch day, is there any way in which you could either bring in more experts or more people who's relevant to your learners, or just using your school's local space in that launch day or in that experience that you've got? So this is one that I did for my school, one of my schools. It was all about water. So we did some science investigations. A lot of this was just done by the teachers, just needed very simple stuff. But again, you don't want them to come up with a lot of knowledge. You just want them to start investigating and thinking. So it brings up loads of questions. We made some filters. They had a pond, luckily, so they did some pond dipping, but I have been to another school and I brought pond animals as well. So again, don't have to have a pond. They also then linked up to places that they'd like to visit, but haven't yet. So they linked up to an aquarium. They had the local RNLI come in to give talks. Again, you probably do that anyway if you live near the school, but why not link it in with your topic? And then I did the science of the water. So I did some experiments inside as well as a secondary science teacher. And then we had luckily we got the local person who does the boat tours around Gower. Their children go to the school, so they came in and gave a talk. And we had a parent who was a marine biologist who came in and gave a really fantastic talk as well. And at the end of the day, they had so much buzzing. When they came back the next day to do the epic planning, the ideas were brilliant. The questions were really meaningful, and they had that background, just that tweet of information, so they knew where they were going, but they were really empowered to actually take on the planning themselves. Another one I did with another school was they wanted to do what lies beneath. So again, most of this was by the school teachers. I was just doing the dissection bit, but they wanted to, they came up with their actual hook, the thinking about underneath the ground or underneath something. And then I just came up with some ideas of how to use more than just their school building. And we had some local experts come in as well, local wildlife trust. We had a caver who came in and did some amazing stuff as well. So again, very cross-curricular, really inclusive and immersive, but all relevant to the learners because it's all about their local area. The other thing, which lots of schools have gone to in the past, but at the moment it's not happening, unfortunately, is if you have a visit or a trip. And I know some of them in the chat were saying about doing a visit. And the great thing about that is you're really exposing them to a new environment. So if you can take them somewhere they've not been before, and it inspires these questions that they can then put into their planning. Now, this word cloud here is just a few areas that I could think of that you could visit as your hook visit. So there was just something locally that we could go to. But again, your hook visit is going to be relevant to your learners. So you don't want to go far. You want to go somewhere which is going to be relevant to your learners, somewhere they could visit when they weren't in school. And then that will provide you with the context for your planning. And obviously it will all be cross-curricular because no location is going to be just on one of the areas of learning experience. It's also going to be real life because you're visiting a real place, and it allows your learners to question and to be question-led. The second way in which you can do more of your learning outside is actually to do it at the end of the topic. And the opportunities here are slightly different. So for example, you can go on a field trip or you can go on a visit at the end of your topic with all that knowledge. But again, and it goes with the launch as well, but more importantly for here, this should really be integrated into the planning. So think about what steps you've taken before here. What have they learned in school? And at what point is this trip going to be relevant and going to really build on that and really bring it to life? Sometimes that's at the beginning. You want them to see that river and then go back and start thinking about the river. It might be that you do all the background work in class and then you go to visit the river so they can see what they're talking about. It's like, oh, so again, integrating it into your planning in a place which is meaningful. But also don't just think about that topic. The opportunities for doing so much cross-curricular stuff when you're outside. You've got the maths. Again, I've said about that, it's much more meaningful. It's also messy. And the same going for scientific inquiries. So many people are doing huddling penguins in test tubes. And at the beginning of the lesson, you ask them, why do penguins huddle? And they all tell you because they get cold. And then you do an experiment and you find out, yes, you were right. So what did we learn? Not a lot. However, if you went outside and said, where do you think all the mini beasts are? And they think they know. And then you're like, well, why? Why are they there? Let's test it. And you may not know the answer to the question. And that doesn't matter at all. It's really important that you go on the journey with them. So having a meaningful fieldwork or scientific inquiry process outside means that you really go through that process to make it make it relevant, to also make it reliable and accurate, and you're really following the process. But at the end of the day, you don't know what the answer is. And that's going to be much more meaningful, because then you can evaluate what you've done, your methodology, but also hopefully if you don't answer the question, it will bring up even more questions. And that is the proper inquiry cycle. You can also think about using your school grounds to develop some data that you can then use over the years and years, and that helps with problem solving as well. So if you've provided data on, say, how tall your trees are, then next year you can see if they're growing any better. You can look at the weather. Is there linking between the weather and how fast your trees are growing? Where are you going to place your polytunnel? Is that going to be the best place? Is that got the best soil? So we're doing soil analysis. So make it meaningful so that the students can use that and all that knowledge you've taught them over their topic to then come up with a plan for either developing something in their school grounds or building something or testing a hypothesis that is really meaningful, not just something they know the answer to already. And then the last thing I'm going to talk about is thinking about ways in which you can drip feed the learning outside the classroom opportunities into the whole school teaching on your daily basis. And one way in which you do that, and before we get that, just one thing, lots of schools now do literacy and numeracy in the morning, and then they do topic work in the afternoon. If you can just put in the chat, if that's the kind of way in which you organise your time in school. So literacy and numeracy in the morning, and then something in the afternoon, some topic work. Let me just have a look. Yes. Okay, there we go.
Yes, it's coming.
Resounding. Oh, someone's moving away.
Moving away. Hey, Aaron.
Lot of yeses. Okay, right. So, bearing that in mind, okay. Obviously, you've got your numeracy and literacy in the morning, which people are very, you want to concentrate on that. But with those opportunities in the afternoon for your topic base, what I've created is these outdoor challenge cards, and obviously you're trying to include an awful lot of independent work, and that usually happens in the afternoon when you're doing your topic-based stuff. So that's the whole point of these. These challenge cards are here to provide you with an opportunity to let your students learn outside independently, covering all 6 AOLEs, and it's all full purpose driven. So if I just go through quickly one of our examples. So this provides you with a question, and this is for Key Stage 2, meant to be done independently, but obviously if you've got low ability or if you're doing it with foundation phase, you can do it with a teacher or with a TA. So each card, there's 50 of them, and they provide you with cross-curricular, so they're all linked to the AOLEs, but it gives you cross-curricular opportunities within it as well. They're not prescriptive at all. The whole point is you can answer it in any way you like. It has success criteria, so it gives you some things you should cover, because obviously this is the blue, this is the science and technology, so we're going to do a science investigation. But if you think about the way in which you approach it, you're not going to be confined by the way you display your results, write your conclusions. You could do a poster or do whatever you like. So the question here is, how might our school generate renewable energy? And for some of them, they may need some help. So that's the think about questions, thinking about where you might be energy inside your grounds, how you might generate it, where's the best location, and how are you going to find the best location? So just answering that. And sometimes that just takes a walk around the school grounds to give you some inspiration. And all of these cards, basically, you've got to get outside to try and find out the answer. And it doesn't matter what your school grounds are like. It's not about having the best school grounds. They can all be done in any grounds. And then thinking about what you could do. So these are options, and you don't have to follow them, and what you might use, again, options. So once you've done your investigation or you've created it, we've got some prompt questions that extend that as well. So you've got some challenge as well, thinking about whether it worked. Is there any way in which you could generate enough energy to light your school? And this is going to be helping them. They're going to have to research things. They're going to have to measure things. They're going to have to think about the methodology. So it's a challenge that will take probably more than an afternoon, but the whole thing is hopefully getting them to build on so many skills, and if you pick one that's linked to your topic, it's all going to be relevant there as well. So those are available on the next day's shop, I should say, but that is it. I don't think I've gone over too much. Kim, have I?
No, you're fine on time. As I say, I've got such a bad cough, I don't want to talk much later anyway. So
if I and So if there's any questions, if anybody has any questions.
If you want to put it in chat, that'll be the easiest way to do questions. Has anyone got any questions for Dawn? I think while we're waiting for the questions to come through, just Dawn and Aaron and I have been talking lately. What you've got to consider in all of this is just where is the best place to teach this? So you've got a topic, or you've got a criteria that you need to cover, skill you need to cover. Where is the best place? Is it in the classroom still, or is it in your local church, or is it in the local park? Is it in your school grounds? And really start to think about that. But also when the children are doing the epic planning, I was going to mention it later, but I'll mention it now. When they're doing that epic planning, put them into an outdoor space or take them for a walk on their locality so that they can then come up with, well, where is the best place for us to be learning this? So it's not just you about making the decisions for yourselves. So we've got here a Nature Days resource cards bilingual.
Yeah, they're being translated as we speak. So in the next couple of weeks, they're going to be on in Welsh. I've got them translated. I just need to put it onto the cards and then put them on the shop. So they will be, they will be in Welsh. Yes.
Yeah.
I haven't done the foundation. They aren't for foundation phase. They are written for Key Stage 2 because there is an awful lot out there for foundation phase. And also Key Stage 2 is the one place I think a lot of schools struggle with keeping the curriculum relevant and using their time effectively outside. So, and that's where a lot of the independent activities are taking place. So if there's a need, I might write a foundation phase, but I think there's a lot out there for foundation. Some of them you could use, but obviously they're not going to be able to read or do it independently. It would take some, it would take some guidance from some teachers and TAs probably. Maybe you could use them with your continuous provision as well, I suppose. Yeah, with some tweaking. Yeah. Oh, I should say, if you do get them, you get them in digital. So it's a digital download and you can then print them off as many times as you like and use them all around your school. You get the license for your whole school. So it's not like I've got one set, we share them, I want that one. The whole school then gets to use them as much as you like and download them. And you can send them home for that home learning. Hopefully we'll never have to do that again, but just in case.
And just to mention, Dawn is also, she's a quality badge holder. So any site that or provider that provides a school, you can go on visits to, or they come to you, they can become a quality badge holder. And Dawn is one of those within the South Wales area. So, and she's also, the resources. There's some free resources as well, I think you've got as well, Dawn, haven't you, on our website? Yes,
yeah. If you look on, I think they're on the website. Also, I've got a YouTube channel. So over lockdown, I did daily challenges for outdoor learning in your garden. So those are still on the website. On Nature Days, just search Nature Days on YouTube. So there's over 100 videos there of activities you can do in your garden. So again, that's something which I think would be nice, is put, using those for your homework. Just, go and do Dawn's challenge for homework. And you don't need brilliant gardens. It's very simple ones there.
Okay. And Emily said she'll share links to your resources in the follow-up email. The Canal and River Trust have said here that they offer guided walks and outreach, and they can help with launch projects. And she's put, do you think teachers will want to visit later this summer? So actually, that'd be really interesting for us to hear from you. How are you feeling at the moment about, are you going to be getting out in your locality or further afield later in the summer?
Because I've got some bookings, but at the moment, all my bookings are in school grounds, which is fine. I'm actually go to Cardiff next week to do a river study in a school ground, and they don't have a river, but I've done it before, so that's quite interesting. But unfortunately, I think it'd be either next half term, I think most. So if there's anyone, local area we're looking at, aren't we? But it would be great.
People are saying local area,
I've seen schools go out if they can walk from their school. I was on the beach the other day working, and there was a school that walked down to the beach from their school. So schools seem to be going out, but buses is the biggest issue, obviously.
And Arwel will maybe update us a bit on that in a moment. So fabulous, that's great. Right, if there's no more questions there, we'll have time at the end as well to put any more questions. We'll pass over to Aaron Davies, who is your title, Aaron, is curriculum development, are you?
New curriculum development, but mainly teacher, year 6.
Yeah, lovely. if I pass over to Aaron. Aaron and I met actually. I did some teacher training for them through Learning Through Landscapes. Learning Through Landscapes offer a grant that schools can apply for £500 of equipment and 2 hours of training. And I did some training with Aaron on gardening in their school grounds, and that's how I met him. And then we've invited him along to share his experiences. They're quite exciting. What's going on at your school? So over to you, Aaron.
Fab, thanks, Kim. If I just share my screen very quickly. There we go. Kim, can you see that?
Yeah, that's great.
Lovely. Okay. Kim, feel free to give me a nudge when you need to tell me to speed up. And
Well, that's right. As I say, because my voice is going, yeah, and I realised over to you.
Thanks. Okay, my name's Aaron Davies, and as I said, I'm a Year 6 teacher at Abbey Primary School. And over the next 20 minutes or so, I'm just going to speak a little bit about a growing project that we've been running in school and how it's developed as part of our general work towards new curriculum. I'm going to show you how we're embracing outdoor learning, but mainly what I'm going to show you is the process we've gone through as a school to ensure that everything we're doing, whether it's inside the classroom or outside the classroom, is purposeful. So looking very much at why we're doing what we're doing. But first, just to give you a brief idea of our particular context. So we're located in Neath Abbey, part of Neath Talbot's local authority. We are an amalgamated school, so we amalgamated about 5-6 years ago. And because of that, we're a split site school. So we've got an early years and assessment unit on one site. We've got an infant site and a junior site with 450 children spread across the school. But really importantly, we are actually in the middle of having a new school built for us, and that's due to be ready for us next May. Why that's really important for us at the minute is, as we're thinking about new curriculum, we're thinking really carefully about the spaces and experiences that we want to be creating within our learning. So if I just move on. So what we've done so far in terms of our new curriculum journey, over the last 2-3 years, we've spent a lot of time developing our pupils' independence and looking at child-led learning. We're focusing on what our children need to engage successfully in new curriculum. So because everything is going to be very cross-curricular, it is based around authentic contexts. Lots of it can be individual, but through a lot of the work that children are going to need to be able to collaborate effectively. So independence and collaboration have been really a key focus of our school and our staff over the past couple of years. Specifically when we've been looking at collaboration and when we're moving outside, often working in groups, looking as a staff at how our teaching approaches, how our language and vocabulary, how we can use AFL strategies and scaffolding to get the best out of our pupils, and how to still hold children, even in group contexts, individually accountable for their learning. And then finally, we've spent an awful lot of time looking at authenticity across our curriculum. So creating either authentic experiences that encompass all of our learning, or giving them an authentic outcome at the end of their learning. So they always understand the purpose of what it is they're doing. It's not just in the classroom surrounded by those 4 walls, but there is a bigger picture, a true purpose to what they're doing. So our project, Grow, Cook, Eat, just to give you a brief idea, it pretty much is what it says on the tin. The project is based around a vegetable garden, the children growing, and the idea is that they get to cook the food and eventually eat it. You'll see in a moment that actually we haven't got very far past growing at the minute, but it shows actually just how much we're getting out of in terms of learning that kind of first growing part. Where this project actually started was back in July and September. We started to ask ourselves the question, what do our children need right now? We're in a really fortunate position with new curriculum that every school should be able to ask themselves the question, what do our children need? It's not about what the children in the school up the road need. It's a very personal choice. And And we found ourselves in a kind of post-lockdown world. So we'd just come out of lockdown 1. Children had had a bit of time back in school in July, but we were looking forward at problems that we were being presented with. Our children were nervous about coming back. They'd been with their parents, they'd been at home, they were out of practice in terms of their classroom learning. They'd had a hugely increased screen time, whether it was through online lessons, whether they were left to devices because parents were working from home. And because of lockdown restrictions, they'd had a real lack of time with friends. And so we were already seeing the impact that was having on their social skills. So with all that in mind, we began to ask ourselves the question, so what? What does that all mean? What do we need in order to begin addressing all of those things? And we come to some pretty simple conclusions. We needed a non-threatening learning environment because we know that sometimes the pressure of the classroom can be too much for some, and especially when we're looking at what's going on in the world right now and post-lockdown, that can be ever more important. We wanted an opportunity for our children to be creative, inquisitive, and to explore lots of the things that they usually get to do in school, but through lockdown haven't had the opportunity. And then also we'd identified as teachers, we really needed to push writing. They were doing well within their actual literacy lessons and they were acquiring skills, but we weren't seeing that having an impact on their independent writing and their extended writing. So in a nutshell, I suppose, we decided we needed to find a suitable context for our learning. And we realized quite quickly that the classroom just wasn't the place. It wasn't going to give us what we needed, and it wasn't going to allow our children the best opportunities to embed and show off their skills. We needed to bring a level of authenticity. Children, they've been living a life outside of school for so much of last year, and coming back into school, they'd almost lived a bit of an adult's life, not having to come to school every day. So they needed that authenticity to come into their learning. They needed to understand the purpose of what they're doing and why. But also from a teacher's point of view, we've found it really hard to move outside the classroom initially because we really needed to understand the purpose of, well, why are we doing it? Why are we going outside? If it's not purposeful, then what's the point? So there is a huge purpose to being outside, but that needs to be planned for. Which brought us to it. We wanted, whatever we did, whether it was inside or outside, we wanted the activities to be rich, underpinned by key skills. We wanted them to be challenging, and we wanted them to pose questions for the children. So after lots of discussions between myself, the other Year 6 teacher, our head teacher, our deputy, our outdoor learning leader, we come to a bit of a decision with our new school in mind, and we knew that we were going to be developing some kind of gardening space, that we would give it a go on one of our current sites. And inspired partly by an article that our head teacher had actually read in the Times, all about a chef coming into school, and inspired by the endless watching of Amazon Prime and Netflix that I did throughout lockdowns, and a show that I'd seen on Amazon Prime called Grow, Cook, Eat, we decided that actually that was going to be the vehicle for our learning. So we knew that within this outdoor learning, within the children growing and cooking, that there would be lots of possibilities for all of almost our checklist of what we had. We knew it would be good for our new school development. It could be authentic. There'd be opportunities for the children to lead their learning, non-threatening. It's not within the classroom, and it was appropriate. So we thought we had a bit of a plan. With that in mind, we decided that we would pose a challenge to our Year 6 pupils. So Mrs. Newman, our head teacher, who quite often gets the blame for the things that we're doing in class, we quite often tell our children, Miss Newman has got another job for us again. And our Year 6s were presented with these 3 challenges. Number 1, she wanted them to create a new vegetable garden in our school. Number 2, she wanted them to become our resident experts. And the reason for that being was number 3. Miss Newman wanted them to teach the rest of the school how to grow and how to use our new garden. All of a sudden, it gave a purpose to everything that was to come. So that's it. We'd started almost. We thought we'd had a really great idea. We thought we knew where we were going, and then we got the children involved. So with those three problems presented to the children, we started discussions. We started asking the children, okay, how are we going to go about it? How are we going to fulfill the task that has been set to us? We asked ourselves the question, what will we do? Excuse me. Within this whole context, we'd also just been named a lead creative school. So we knew we had the opportunity to bring in external practitioners to support our learning. And as we were having these discussions with the children, quite quickly they made certain decisions. They decided that within their garden, they didn't want to just have a go at little bits. They wanted to be able to take ownership over their learning. They wanted all to have their own individual little allotment. So within the groups that they were very used to working in, they would all get this 1 meter by 1 meter allotment, and they would be solely responsible for their own little patch. And then in order to teach the rest of the school, they came up with a really fantastic idea that, do you know what, why not film a documentary? Let's create a guidebook, let's make a blog. And because they knew that because of COVID, we weren't able to mix bubbles. So it was a really simple way of sharing all of that knowledge they were acquiring, and them almost becoming the teachers, the experts within our school. And we were very honest with the children, and I said to them, look, throughout this project, I really want to concentrate on writing. I want to get as many writing opportunities. I don't want them to be meaningless and just stick them in your English books. I want it to be purposeful. And so we involved them in the planning process, and they come up with really wonderful ideas. They thought, well, if we're doing a documentary, let's get script writing. If we're cooking, why not instructions, recipe cards? What about a blog post or an online journal that children across the school could almost check in with to see how year 6 were getting on? The reason I have to include it, the reason there's a picture of a goat up in the top hand corner is our children are very used to now being part of our planning process and being presented with problems and them presenting us with a bit of a direction to go in. We choose the skills. As practitioners, it's still our responsibility to give them the context to their learning and to plan for skills, because that's the basis of our teaching. But they quite often choose the direction and give us ideas along the way. We had quite a battle with them wanting to buy a goat. At one point, we moved on from having a vegetable patch to they almost wanted a farm. We were at a point where children were coming in because they'd researched how to look after a goat. One definite downside of my classroom being next door to the head teacher is they were very easily able to bypass me and almost start writing letters and trying to persuade the head teacher. Mr. Davies said, no, but I think we need a goat. It's become almost a running joke as part of our classroom. So once we decided what we will do, they decided, yeah, let's do a documentary, let's all have individual allotments. Our next question was, well, okay, who are we going to need to help us through this process? And through, lots of discussion, we worked out quite quickly, okay, we're going to need a gardener because somebody needs to teach us how to garden if we're going to become experts. We're going to need a filmographer, somebody to teach us how to even make a documentary. And they thought, oh, what about a blogger? If we're talking about getting as much writing out of this as we can, then do we need somebody who can teach us how to make a website, how to hold a blog? There were suddenly lots and lots of opportunities. So with that in mind, we thought, well, if that's what we need, how are we going to actually get there? So at this point, we hadn't even got outside. We were still trying to create a purposeful task, a purposeful experience that we would take outside. So it's just really highlighting that importance that it's finding it difficult to explain, that importance of having purpose, having skills, making sure everything is purposeful and underpinned before you move out. So when we decided, okay, how will we get there? Our children decided these were the people that we needed to employ. So step one was create job adverts. We advertised, and the children were involved in interviewing individuals and eventually did choose to employ a gardener and a filmographer that they thought would be able to help them through this problem that had been set for them. So finally, when we'd finally employed a gardener that they had chosen two fantastic women, Tracy and Amy, that were going to teach them to be filmmakers. Finally, our project was able to begin. And we decided to split it into two key sections. The children decided, well, first we need to learn how to garden. So let's just do that on its own first. Then they decided, well, we also need to learn how to make a film. So let's get the skills that we need nailed first, and then we'll bring everyone together and start working on our documentary and things. And these photos here are part of our gardening workshops. So we really focused outside on the processes that the children were going to need in order to garden. How do you do it? What do you need to do? Stuff from sowing seeds, caring for plants, what do they need? We really focused heavily on vocabulary. So we worked with Chris, who's our gardener, that gentleman in the center picture, who has been part of this planning process all the way through. Understanding that our aim is to improve writing, he's been fantastic with children in making sure that they have that subject-specific vocabulary to enhance their writing. And then giving them experiences, tasting the food, giving them those opportunities to experience everything before they go on to teach it and to create their documentary. Also, it wasn't just about creating our documentary. The reality of looking after their own little allotment suddenly hit them. It was a hugely cross-curricular experience. So in our lessons, in our maths lessons, we'd been looking at volume, area, capacity, and all of those things we were able to bring into the building of our beds, working out, well, how many plants are we going to put in what section? Because they all had their own little allotment, we had to throw out the idea that one bed would have broccoli, one bed would have cauliflower. And instead, we started using a method called square foot gardening, where we split our 1 meter by 1 meter beds into 9 little sections. And every single group has been able to plan specifically what they want to grow, something they would enjoy cooking with. The cross-curricular opportunities have been really fantastic. Another thing we've been working on as part of the process is team identity. So I mentioned at the start that we'd worked an awful lot on collaboration skills. And through lots of training that we've done in bringing collaboration into the classroom, we realized that building team cohesion and team identity was a really important part of our process in order for them to work effectively as a team. We realized that if they weren't working effectively as a team, then actually they weren't even going to get as far as the learning. Those cross-curricular skills weren't going to be purposeful, they weren't going to be effective. So that has also become part of our process. And little things like creating team names. They've all designed a little wooden spoon that they've painted and has gone into their beds. They're about to start doing team chants. We've brought in a bit of poetry and we're looking at limericks in the next couple of weeks. And they're going to have a team chant in the form of a limerick. The possibilities have really been endless. That was just the gardening element. So also we then have the filming element of our process. The children had to learn how to film a documentary before they could even think about going on to produce this documentary. So Tracy and Amy, who are two practitioners we've brought in, have spent the last couple of weeks working with our children, looking at the roles that they will need to take on, from directing, cameramen, to managing the sound, to working in different locations. They've had to look at different film shots. How do we even begin to plan a film of that extent? And we've also looked at the production process, a really, really lovely activity that we got into, a sorting activity where the children had to work out actually what is involved. One thing that they really began to obsess over, in one sense, was the marketing and advertising. They realized, well, 1 minute, if I'm creating a TV show, then, well, I need to do an advert. I need to do a little teaser almost. So since that was something that the children were so interested in, we thought it's pointless in pushing that to the side. Let's embrace it and let's get as many teaching opportunities out of it as we can. We're really lucky that over the last couple of years, our head teacher has been really supportive and has let us try lots of new things, has invested really heavily in lots of equipment for us to create these authentic experiences. And we decided last year that one way we would capture the imagination of our children and to give them a really wow experience was we invested in buying a couple of drones for the school. And if there's one thing we've learned is bring a drone into the equation and you pretty much grab the attention of anyone going. So here's one little teaser that the children went on to create in anticipation of creating their documentary. It really is another level of scariness and trust when you put a 10-year-old in charge of piloting a drone. But you know what, in terms of creating that engaging and authentic experience outdoors, it really worked to grab the attention of our children. As well as, so that's where we are at the moment. They've had a couple of sessions to do with gardening, and they're pretty confident with the skills they need to garden. They are still learning all that they need to in terms of filming and sound and what they're going to need for the documentary making. But along the way, we've started to learn that we need to embrace the unexpected. So the professionals that we've been working with have been helping to guide us in creating these purposeful experiences. And we wanted their input for creating these spaces in our new school. When we presented that problem to these professionals, they were really keen to involve the children in the process. So we put our project on hold for a week, and Chris, the gardener, presented the problem of, can you design us a new garden for the new school using all of the knowledge that you've acquired so far about gardening? Our children went off, they decided to use Minecraft, they used Google SketchUp. We went out on the field and started measuring things out so they could work out how big things were going to need to be. And they were given the option as to how they wanted to present their work. Some wanted to do models, some wanted to just use pen and paper or paint. One child, Phoebe, who on the right-hand side, she wanted to be really accurate. She's a stickler for detail. She said, I'm going to use Google SketchUp, and she's created the most outstanding design that we could ever imagine. So we've learned along the way that actually embracing the unexpected and making the most of these opportunities inside and outside the classroom is really, really important. in terms of whole school, that's just what our year sixes have been doing. So we once we got this project underway and we'd created this really meaningful experience outside, me and Morgan, who is the other year six teacher, decided, let's share this with the school and see what people think. And really quickly it became apparent that people wanted to be involved. So we started taking these ideas and developing a whole school calendar, looking at how, if this is what our year sixes are going to be doing, what skills can they be working on lower down in the school that gives us a natural progression over the next couple of years. And we've had really lovely outdoor ideas. Things like our year fours are doing a pizza challenge at the minute. So they're growing tomatoes, onions, basil, and they're going to be doing a cooking project towards the end of term. Some of our year threes, they're doing Jack and the Beanstalk at the minute. So they're currently growing runner beans. And a really lovely idea we had from Kim during our training is then using these outdoor growing spaces as small world areas, bringing the literacy outside and just giving them a context to work in. And then we also started to bring science to the outdoors. So our year fives at the moment are currently doing the potato challenge. They're doing a science investigation, working out which gives the biggest harvest, growing potatoes in the ground or growing potatoes in containers. And it's just been a really lovely way to get everything outside the classroom and make sure everything that's going on outside is not only purposeful, but is underpinned by skills and supports the learning going on across the breadth of the curriculum. That's where we
Aaron,
are.
oh,
Yep.
sorry, I was just going to say, we'll have to wrap you up soon. I don't know how much more you've got.
That's fine. I got one more slide.
Oh, sorry.
Sorry, Kim.
I could listen to you for ages.
So the last thing is, some things are working for us, some things are not. It really has been a learning process. There's been problems, obstacles and barriers, and things that I think every school needs to be aware of. Books has been quite a discussion point at the minute. How do we even begin to capture all of these things that they're doing outside the classroom? And at the minute, we haven't got an answer just yet. And that's feeding into how do we evidence and begin to inform assessment. We're doing these wonderful things across the school, but curriculum coverage is something we're currently looking at. And we're currently really looking at our long-term planning and how can we ensure curriculum coverage across the school. And then finally, one practical thing that we found is, being obviously a local authority school, we are bound to approved suppliers, and because the children are leading our learning, things come up last minute. How do we manage that budget wise? How do we suddenly manage that we need to go and buy more compost, or the children want to take it in a different direction? They're not things that we found answers to just yet, but they're things that we wish we'd known at the very start, and we thought other schools might benefit from thinking about before they embark on these little journeys. To sum it all up, we can put it into a quote that we had from one of our year sixes. We learn all about it in here, and then we actually do it out there, in the real world. That's it, Kim. Thanks very much.
Great. Oh, thanks, Aaron. That's fabulous. I just wanted Aaron here because I just felt he put it into context for you all. And I think one thing that's key to say is that when we're talking, like, we put this on for free this week because it's Welsh Outdoor Learning Week. And we talk about this the words outdoor learning, and that often conjures up the outdoors. And it also often conjures up active play and outdoor pursuits. But it's not. It's about learning in an outdoor space, or learning in any space that is beyond the classroom. So just be mindful of that. But Aaron, one of the biggest things I think at the moment is that books and evidence. How do we have that evidence for Estin? If anyone's come up with some great ideas, please do share them. But it is about just taking how you normally assess in the classroom and monitor and check that progression in the classroom, and just applying it to those experiences beyond. So yeah, just think about what you've got and how you can adapt it for those other opportunities. So then we've got literally 2 minutes before we've got to pass to Arwel, and I'll explain why I'm not doing my bit at the end. But has anyone got any questions for Aaron, please, in the chat? Or any comments? No, not yet. Maybe some will crop up in the moment, and we can always put some on at the end anyway. Really like what you've done. Thank you, Laura, for that. It's brilliant. And thank you from other people there. Fantastic. Love the project. That was really inspirational. Absolutely, it was. Yeah, for real. But I'm going to pass over very quickly to Arwel and Claire. So Arwel, I'll leave you to introduce yourself and what you two do. Brilliant.
Thank you, Kim. Yes, I'm Arwel.
Arwel. Oh, I was going to say your volume's not very loud. So is there any way of
Hold on.
getting louder?
Can you hear me now? Is that better?
It is. You might have to put your volumes up on your own computers, folks, if it's as bad as it is for me.
Diolch fawr iawn, Kim. Thank you. I'm Arwel Elias. I'm the Outdoor Education Adviser for the counties of North West Wales, Conwy, Gwynedd and Anglesey. I'm also current chair of OEAP Cymru. I'll let Claire introduce herself.
Hi, I'm Claire Adams. I'm the Outdoor Education Advisor for Monmouthshire County Council and the current OEAP Cymru Secretary.
So we've got a very brief presentation to share with you. I hope you can see this now. So OEAP Cymru, or Panel Ymgynghorwyr Addysg Awyr Agored, represent local authorities across Wales. We are a subgroup of the ADU, which is the Director of Educations across Wales as well, and we're there to ensure that local authorities, schools that we represent, fulfil their statutory responsibilities in relation to educational visits and activities. We're there to offer practical help and advice and support for staff, taking children outside, be that in their local environment, and to visit, when allowed, to residential visits and expeditions. So that broad spectrum of visits. It's really nice to hear what Dawn was saying and Aaron was saying in terms of visits and in terms of the work that they're doing. And for me, I think outdoor learning embraces an approach to learning, which involves being outdoors as being a central part of that experience. It's open to all. It seeks to use the outdoor environment as a vehicle for transforming experiences into knowledge, skills, attitudes and behaviours. It can have challenging, adventurous elements to it. Hopefully we'll be allowed to do these soon. It will have a possible residential experience as part of that progression. It involves some physical activity. It always respects the natural environment. And the important bit here, I think, is that it's often cited as being memorable and fun for both pupil and staff. I'm just going to go into the next slide.
Oh, well, if you pop it onto full screen, then it'll be the actual presentation.
Okay.
Just down on the bottom.
Can you see that?
Yeah. No, we can see all your slides now, or I can. So, as in your two follow-up slides. So if that's one. Yeah. Full screen. Oh no.
That should be.
Oh no.
Is that right? Can you see that?
We're seeing lots of your slides now. So if you just end slideshow a minute, go up the top and end slideshow.
Hold on.
I'll go to display settings.
Hold on, let's try that again.
Technical hitch.
What are you seeing now?
I'm seeing your next slide as well as your current slide. So if you go to display settings there in the middle, yeah, click on that.
Okay.
Can you go to at the top there? It says display settings. Amongst yourselves, sorry folks. There you go. Click on that, and then slot. Yeah, that one. Yeah.
Is that better?
Swap presenter view and slideshow. No, it's still not doing it. It's just very, very slow.
Could be very, very slow.
Oh well.
Can you see that? Yeah.
I would say just carry on and we'll just
Okay.
do the next slide. That's fine.
So what does an advisor do within their own local authorities? First and foremost, we're there to protect you, school staff, senior managers at school and local authorities from any secondary risk in actually taking kids outside. How we do that? We use the Evolve system and monitor that radar for the planning and approval process. But we're there to offer and disseminate technical advice and guidance across the broad spectrum of visits that we do, disseminate national best practice. We're also there to train colleagues in terms of visit leader training, EVC training, outdoor learning card training, and some training that Claire can talk about later on in terms of the basic outdoor learning training, and all going towards that school or establishment improvements. So we exist, this is our mission statement, we exist to ensure the effective leadership and management of high quality outdoor learning, off-site visits, etc. We are a professional, knowledgeable experts who promote best practice by providing that guidance, support and training to schools.
Your slides aren't moving on at all.
Are they not?
No.
They
So
should
if you close that down totally and just go to your PowerPoint. But Emily's just put in the chat, she'll send out the presentation slides to everyone afterwards anyway. But if you want to try sharing again, Arwel, and just have it on open where you would normally edit it, that might be better.
Yeah, it might be. I've had technical issues all day today with this computer, so I don't know if it's my end. Can you see that?
Yeah, yeah. Just keep it on that view and just click through your slides that way.
Okay.
It might be easy.
Yeah. So where were we? Let's phone me a bit. So we're here. So our vision as OEAP Cymru is to offer that inspirational, adventurous learning for all our young people. And our goals, if you like, is to ensure that every school in Wales can have access to advice guidance from an OEAP member, that every school in Wales would have an EVC, an Education Visits Coordinator, visit leaders trained by OEAP members, that every school have adopted the OEAP national guidance within their policies for outdoor education, outdoor learning, off-site visits and adventurous activities, and that we develop a robust accreditation process to ensure the quality of training across that spectrum. Some headline news, and we are in a frustrating bit of a period with guidance at the moment. Currently, no educational visits can take place. We're hoping for a resumption of day visits imminently. We've got a meeting with Welsh Government next week, but we're in this period now where actually no visits can actually take place. But in the autumn guidance, which was released by Welsh Government, it was really encouraging that outdoor learning be featured quite heavily in their autumn guidance, and centered around these three things: learning in the outdoors, learning about the outdoors, and learning for the outdoors. And that's a monumental step from a government point of view to have them three bits in the autumn guidance. So in a way, where we stand as advisors is that gatekeeper, if you like, to ensure the standards between schools and providers are kept. And why we're doing this, so there's a real important reason behind doing this, is that, you know, it's a stark bit of information there, isn't it? 3/4 of UK children spend less time in the outdoors than prison inmates. And that was from the Dirt is Good campaign back in 2016. And I wonder following the last year that we've all had, what that statistic is like now across the UK. So why we're doing this is super, super, super important. Back in 2019, we published the High Quality for Outdoor Learning for Wales document, which superseded the English Outdoor Council's version. And I hope that every school has have had a copy of this, because it gives schools opportunities to evaluate, improve, identify their learning outcomes with a range of indicators. It was done in partnership between OEAP Cymru and the Welsh Council for Outdoor Learning. It is available both in hard copy and on the Welsh Council's website. We need to tackle some of these myths as well, you know, and our work is in and around the health and safety side of stuff. And we, as part of any planning, we need to consider the health and safety as we're planning our outdoor provision, outdoor learning, outdoor activities. But this should be seen as an opportunity. It's a valuable learning opportunity and an opportunity to introduce challenge and decision making about the management of risks. But we need to give staff time to do that, staff time to develop their judgment skills in making them decisions. We need to bring parents on board. They need to get on board with the idea of outdoor learning, how we tackle that issue. It might be involving some parents in actually understanding what schools are doing in terms of outdoor learning. We are blessed in Wales with some fine weather at the moment, but weather concerns certainly, you know, from both staff and parents in terms of their kids, their nearest and dearest being out. We've all heard that word. There's no such thing as bad weather. It's just inappropriate clothing. And we need to consider the school grounds and learners' behaviours in the outdoors. And I sum that up as a pessimist might see the difficulties in every opportunity, where an optimist will see the opportunities in every difficulty. And I think we need to have a healthy approach to risk management when we're looking at outdoor learning. And it shouldn't be a barrier for that learning to happen outside. You might all be aware that we have got the OEAP national guidance. This was endorsed by Welsh Government as best practice guidance. It's also endorsed by all local authorities, HSC, teachers' unions, school travel forum, etc. And the website for the national guidance is oeapng.info, and I'd encourage all staff to go and have a look at that website as a starting point for their outdoor learning. I briefly mentioned before, we've got some training courses that we offer. We offer visit leader training, basic outdoor learning training, EVC, which is the Education Visits Coordinators training. Every school in Wales should have an EVC training. We offer visit emergency training and also the outdoor learning card training, which has been about for about 10 years. But there's a series of developmental cards in orienteering, team building, journeying, bouldering and environmental activities, 4 of which, apart from the environmental activity cards, are available bilingually. Some strategic developments I'm going to just pass over in a second to Claire, but the national guidance, which I alluded to just a minute ago, we're in the first phase of translation of national guidance, a huge piece of work. But them guidance will be available bilingually for schools, and that the first tranche of them, that work has been completed now. Curriculum development and mapping that progressive journey for the outdoor learning from foundation all the way through. We as OEAP are working at representation within Wales. We're continuing to nurture that relationship with Welsh Government as a respected and trusted voice, and working on implementing lessons learned from the last year's pandemic. And it's all driving towards that longer term structuring of outdoor learning in Wales. I'm just going to pass over to Claire, who's going to just talk about what she's done in Monmouthshire.
Thanks, Arwel. So yeah, I just wanted to give you a brief sort of idea about what we've been doing in Monmouthshire County Council, and also what we're also looking at as an OEAP Cymru group as well in terms of our sort of development with the outdoor learning. So during the first lockdown, I started getting quite a lot of requests from primary head teachers asking for help with taking the curriculum-based outdoor learning, learning outdoors, which included developing school grounds. So some head teachers said, please could you come in and have a look at our school grounds, but also looking at staff training and looking at developing resources. These were sort of the prime things that schools came to me and said, we could really do with your help. Could you come in and have a look at these things for us and look at ways that you can help us develop to be able to access resources, help us with school grounds and also with staff training. There's an awful lot out there, and obviously a lot of it is just about posting them to the right places and going to the right places for those things. During the second lockdown, schools also came to me and said, please could you just have some resources that we could put onto the learning platforms, but also to work with the hub schools, things that are really easy to get children outside, just literally to get them away from their screens and take them outside. So I took a lot of the ideas that are already out there, for example, the journey sticks, and also a pictures idea, putting a picture frame and then taking a metaphorical sort of picture and putting it into the frame. And children use these throughout the lockdown period, and it was great, and we got some really good feedback from that. And then following the return just before Easter, I came up with a basic virtual training course, which I have delivered to 2 or 3 schools, which is just looking at taking the first steps out of the classroom. And again, we've had some really positive feedback, and that's what we're going to hope to look to roll out across Monmouthshire, across the Monmouthshire schools, but also potentially across Wales as well. I've also set up a support network of experienced teachers and also volunteers and outdoor instructors, because a lot of us come from outdoor activity backgrounds, and although I'm a trained primary school teacher, I didn't teach for a huge length of time, and I'm not current, so we needed to seek that information and get that experience from teachers who are out there and doing the practice to find out what it is that they need the support with. So we've set up a support network, and we've had a meeting, and we're looking to find out what they would like to see, what their barriers are, and also just have it as a point for sharing ideas and information. As part of the Outdoor Learning Week this week, we've also got our outdoor instructors going out into some schools, to some primary schools, as a bit of a pilot. And the idea of this is for them to deliver some sort of low-level activities using the outdoor learning cards, but also with the idea of leading teachers, leaving them with some ideas to make it ongoing and making it sustainable. So we don't just come in and do a one-hit and then go, that we leave them with some activity ideas that they can then carry on with afterwards. We've also developed a questionnaire, which is going to go out to schools across Wales, which will help us to get a better understanding of what the barriers are and where and how the support is needed. And also, as an OEAP Cymru group, we've set up an outdoor learning working party looking to emulate what's happening in Monmouthshire, and taking it across Wales. And we're working with partners in the consortia advisory group. So there are 4 consortia across Wales who advise schools on various different subject areas. So we're working in particular with ERW, who are based in Mid Wales, and they've developed a web-based platform around outdoor learning, which is really brilliant. And we're hoping to develop that with them in order to have that as a resource for schools to go to. The ultimate aim is that we can put it onto or have a holding page on Hub, which obviously all schools and pupils can access with relevant materials, and also just linking them to other organisations who already have that information and those training and links to resources. We're also working with other organisations on a local and a national level, such as the Healthy Schools schemes, CLOtC as well as the Wales Council for Outdoor Learning, and SAPO, who are our Scottish advisors across the board. They're being really helpful for helping us to develop a training platform as well. But there's lots of exciting developments happening. So we'll keep you posted, and information will come out through your local advisor. So thank you, and back to you, Arwel.
I just want to finish with 2 things, and one is you can find your local OEAP advisor just by going to that website at the bottom of that page. And I'd encourage you to make contact with your local outdoor education advisor as that first step in your planning of your outdoor learning. And I want to just finish with this last slide. The slide's in Cymraeg, and it's an extract from Tim Gill's Nothing Ventured book, and in English it reads, "Education in its broader sense is not just about delivering a curriculum, it's about giving children a chance to extend their life skills, it's about developing their confidence, it's about fostering their resilience and a sense of responsibility. And let's not forget, it's about an enjoyment, engagement and excitement about venturing out into the real world with all its capacity for uncertainty, surprise and delight." And I think that's really, really important as we think about where we're going next, coming out of the year we've had and the recovery phase, and outdoor learning being a key part of that. I think it's not just about the curriculum, it's what we're doing. Diolch yn fawr iawn. Apologies for the technical bit.
Can you just move your slide on, because it's still saying strategic development, so they can't read it in Cymraeg.
Is it there now?
No.
No?
No.
No.
Oh, I'm sorry, we'll have to leave that there. Thanks, Arwel and Claire, for giving that overview.
Apologies for the technical issues that we've had. It is my end. We've had issues with the corporate laptops this afternoon, so that's our apologies there.
Lucy's asking, can I confirm that Arwel said that no outdoor visits can take place at the moment?
Yeah, I'll just read you what the Welsh Government's guidance are as they stand, and they read as being, I've just checked this morning. We continue to advise against educational visits. However, we are updating our guidance as soon as it is appropriate to do so, with the resumption of domestic day visits in the first instance, and in due course, the resumption of domestic residential trips. So at the moment, no school visits can take place. It is frustrating. I completely understand that, but that's as it stands in the operational guidance from Welsh Government as at the moment.
Can I just clarify though, Arwel, am I assuming when they do their Golden Mile or they're going around walking, which some of the schools around here are doing, they can do educational things as they walk through their locality?
Say that again, Kim, sorry.
Sorry, my voice is bad. Some schools are doing walks in their local area for fitness reasons, if they're a small site. There is nothing prohibiting them then, therefore, doing activities on the way and looking for observational. So no,
that's fine. That would be fine.
So it's just, we're talking about off-site, as in
off-site visits. Yeah.
Yeah. So, but if you've allocated and you've worked out your local learning area that you are using, then you can go into that local space.
Yeah, we're seeking that clarity from Welsh Government on that exact issue. At the moment, as it reads, it's educational visits, as in, you know, off-site visits.
Yeah. But they can, if you're going for exercise, then you can do it.
Yeah, but I hope that we can have a resumption of education day visits imminently. You know, we've got a meeting, as I said, with government officials next week to clarify that. Yeah.
Right, okay, yeah, because a few people have added that in the chat, but certainly I know that certainly in England it's the case that the PE and public health have said they need to be exercising, and therefore if your exercise normally happens in your locality, then that is still allowed. So I think that's the same. Well, thank you ever so much to all our speakers. As I said on the advertised, it did say that I would be speaking as well about, and one thing I'll leave with you is that all of this getting beyond the classroom cannot happen overnight. It's not a case of saying to your teachers, just get out there and do it. If you do that, then all those ones that are a little bit nervous will become more resistant. So it's really important to go through a whole school approach to getting everybody involved and into that culture. Okay, and I have put the dates, and I'll just very, very quickly share this with you. Just these are the dates of our next masterclasses that are coming up, which go through all the content in more detail of what, let me share the screen would help, will help you to go through that process. Here it comes. Can you see that, somebody who's got their moved on? Can you see a PowerPoint, Emily?
No, it's still black at the moment.
Oh, what is going on? Technology is not playing.
There it is. It's there.
Coming. Okay, thanks, Dawn. So this next one, 11th of May, that goes through a whole school approach to getting outside. So how do you get all your staff on board, all your school community? And then we've got one on your local area and one which is coming up on further afield and residentials when we allow them. But those dates are there that you can have a look at. And the link was in the chat, but also on that presentation. Oh, sorry, going back up. So what next for you all? Well, hopefully, let's go back. From Dawn's and Aaron's presentation, you've now got some clearer ideas of your outside the classroom curriculum vision. Book on those masterclasses. We also have lots and lots of free resources on the CLOtC website, but also becoming a member gives you masterclasses for free and other resources as well. At the moment, as I said, very few are available in Welsh. And we'll be putting more on as we can find some. But yeah, please do look at that membership. We also have the CLOtC Mark, which is a framework to help you embed learning outside the classroom in your school culture. So please have a consideration of that. Have a look on the website and see if there's something you want to go through that process. As we said, a contact, Arwel says, and Claire, do get in touch with your local OEA. They are amazing font of knowledge. They're there to support you, and very much I find that they're just, if you're just a bit worried about getting out and about, they're there to help you dispel those myths and really build on the practice that you're already embedding. And then look for support resources. Dawn's already mentioned her outdoor challenge card, but there's loads of different resources out there. And also contact other external providers for support. As Aaron did, they can come into your school at the moment, or when we're allowed to, you can take them out for your hook visits or your plenaries, whatever. But the most important thing is take your learning beyond the classroom. So I'm just going to go back to the chat because I think there's quite a few comments in there. Mostly people just saying thank you very much. Jock, thank you. Emily will be sending all the links out. Is there a link to this course going to be sent to us later? Yes, there is. Joined late, S. Ellis said about booking on the master classes, and there'll be a link sent through to you after this. But if anyone has any other questions, if anybody else, as I did mention as well, please, any feedback on what you feel your schools need now, that would be absolutely brilliant for everybody, for Arwel, for Claire, and for Council for Learning Outside the Classroom. We really want your feedback on what would be most beneficial for you. Okay, So has anyone got any other questions at all for anybody? No? Well, thank you ever so much to everybody. And this will cut off quite dramatically because Emily will just close it down. So can I just say a big thank you to our speakers again, and get out there, everybody, and not star. Take care.